the plan was refurbish the entire thing, make it better than it's ever been. We've actually made, a little bit of money through the project. We can make it better. Then we'll reopen it. But unfortunately, he passed away very soon after closing it down and gave it to a group of nuns. And this is where the eerie part comes in.
History is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know.
Hey, Matt, Ben, Noel. This is Agent Minuteman from Massachusetts. Just listened to your classic episode on Noah's Ark, and your comments about that theme park at the end reminded me of the Holy Land. Not like Israel, but Holy Land, Connecticut. It was a theme park built in the 50s in the town of Waterbury. It was shut down in the 80s, and it's well known for having a huge cross. Big LED panels, can see it from miles around. But the park itself's real spooky looking now. A girl was murdered there, and it's become kind of one of these spooky tourist attractions. Seemed right up your guys' alley, so I thought I'd let you know. Enjoy the podcast.
I love a story involving ramshackled amusement parks. There was a Stephen King, kind of lesser Stephen King novella called Funland, I think it was called. Great set piece. Anytime you're in like a haunted house, kind of a trashy haunted house, always really fun fodder for a spooky mystery.
Yes. Ben, I want to say this is a vocabulary word of the day that you've presented to us before in the past. Canopsia. I don't even know if I'm saying it correctly.
Canopsia.
Yeah. The eerie feeling of being in a place that was once busy with people. It's like the ghosts of all the people that once inhabited this place are now gone and it's empty and abandoned. And that feeling.
And everybody has had this feeling before. So just to drive home with an example here, in our conversation, we were talking about this almost quiet holiness, right? Is how people can experience this. You have encountered this if you have ever been in a 24-hour grocery store around, and you know there's probably a cashier somewhere, but there's just the music playing. There's something sad and very it's like Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows type stuff. Like another example would be, a city after a tragedy, or a city during a holiday.
We all
Times
experienced
Square
it
after 9/11,
Yeah,
or Times Square during the pandemic.
Exactly.
There were like amazing photographs of places that are usually just heavily trafficked that were just it's almost like, it's kind of like deja vu. It's got a sort of vibe like that, where it's like you're experiencing an otherworldly thing that isn't really something you can fully tap into, psychologically or intellectually rather. Dead malls, great example. Giant, empty, cavernous spaces that used to be bustling with shoppers that are now essentially like overgrown, weird places that are too expensive for anyone to rent.
Well, in a weird way, that experience to me is a lot like time traveling for just a moment, because there is a point in time when humanity is wiped from the earth, but some of the structures will remain, at least for a time, right? No matter when that is in time, how far advanced we are or how devolved we are, there will be a moment, right, where there's just structures and there's one person left observing it, or a small group of people.
Yeah. Check out the show The World Without Us. Back when History Channel was still doing stuff like that.
So yeah, you get to have that window, that moment in time. Well, this place that Agent Minuteman describes here, Holy Land, USA, that's the full title, in Waterbury, Connecticut, kind of has that vibe right now. It's being, I don't want to spoil it too much, guys, but it is being used right now for some worship ceremonies. It is like Christian worship ceremonies, like Mass, things like that. But for a long time, from 1984 until, gosh, the past the 2010s, this place was completely abandoned. It was started by a gentleman in the 1950s who decided, I want to build a place where people can go and experience essentially the biblical town of Bethlehem, or a replication of the biblical town of Bethlehem. But I want to make everything tiny.
It looks more like the town of Bedrock. When you look at the actual, it looks like the Flintstones themed kind of amusement park. It's very, very, very weird.
There's a link I sent you guys to discovery.com. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the image there. Is that not it?
That's one part of it, but there are other images on another site that I sent to you guys. It's called messynessychick.com. That has some images of the actual mini Bethlehem that was created. The thing that you can't tell from the picture is the scale, because this is it's less than half scale, I believe.
Like
So,
Rock
like,
City reproductions.
Yes,
Have you ever been to Rock
exactly.
City?
So if you're at the front where these large gates are in these pictures we're looking at, it looks like there's a town that kind of moves up this hill or up this mountain. And from the perspective, it looks like a regularly sized bunch of houses and buildings, but really they're just tiny. And it's just meant to look like it. And to my understanding, the creator's idea was that anyone from any religious background of any faith could come here and just kind of spend some time in this place, almost as in a meditative state, to just imagine what it would be like to be here in this time and place that is written about in the Bible. It's very cool to me. I don't know. I like
it. It is.
Yeah, I like it because it reminds me of, fellow nerds in the audience, back me up here. The historical reproduction towns that some of us visited in grade school, where someone's like, there's an ancient tradition to churning butter. Why, I recall vividly, you know what I mean? And they're doing the acting thing. I love that stuff, and I think we all really enjoy this idea of visiting the past or experiencing it in person, even if it is a past with which you do not agree or to which you do not subscribe. This stuff can be really, really cool. There is one thing that's great about the Messy Nessie link you sent, Matt, is you do get a better sense of scale when you see two kids, right? I think that's where we're going. There's a neat picture of two kids standing outside in a small building, an inn, a hotel, and based on the perceived height of the children, I think if you took a person, an adult person standing would probably be right at the ceiling of that thing or higher. So it's so
it's
cool.
tiny.
What happened to those reproduction places? Can we go? Can we just go to one? Is that in the budget?
There were a couple in Florida, though I don't know their current state after Ian and some of the other terrible tragedies that are going on down there right now with weather. But yeah, I remember going to a bunch of down there. I want to talk to you guys really quickly a little more about this place and the history, because it is pretty cool. There's a guy named John Baptist Greco, or Greco, Greco. I want to say maybe it's Greco.
It might be Baptiste.
Maybe it is Jean Baptiste Greco.
Just a thought.
Greco? Man, I'm sorry. I'm only reading these things, and English is weird. You can say things in different ways. But this dude was an attorney there in Waterbury. And as I was saying, he wanted this place to be like a cool meditative thing. It was the materials used for this thing. You guys were saying it was maybe a little ramshackle. It is. It's mostly reused materials from other projects, other construction, other things like that. I mean, we're talking everything like old fridges that are helping to fill this thing out, cinder blocks, things like that. And it was successful in the 1960s and 70s. There were a lot of people, around 40,000 people visiting this place every year as not really a pilgrimage, but just, maybe a curiosity, a place of interest. in 1984, the guy who created this place closed it down. And the plan was refurbish the entire thing, make it better than it's ever been. We've actually made, a little bit of money through the project. We can make it better. Then we'll reopen it. But unfortunately, he passed away very soon after closing it down and gave it to a group of nuns. And this is where the eerie part comes in. It's not because the nuns are haunting it or something like that, which would be a great Blumhouse movie.
I was going to say, I'm out.
I think there's a couple of them already.
Yeah. But it's because they essentially looked after the property, but they didn't keep it up. Does that make sense? They didn't.
Yes.
They did a bad job. Is what
No. They
They did their best.
They did their best that they could, but it was like a volunteer thing. Like, oh, well, this is ours now? Oh, geez. Okay, I guess we'll fit this into our schedules.
Got it. Yeah. They made sure it wasn't like fully vandalized or burned to the ground, but they didn't
Well, it was
update the paint
vandalized.
jobs.
Throughout,
Okay.
It was vandalized at times. It was, it remained, though, right? I don't know how to put that in a nicer way. They didn't really do much with it. It kind of grew over, and kids, teenagers used it as like a spot to go because it's weird, right? Well, then there were a bunch of community efforts to actually clean the place up. Our caller mentioned a giant cross, right? That's visible from really far away. That cross is
Like a
gone.
neon looking thing.
Well, it is now. Originally, it was
okay.
not. But it's gone through several restorations. I think 3 complete rebuilds. And it is now this huge lit cross that you can see from, even further away now.
Man, that cross is lit.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But the oh god, you got to switch gears here because there was something terrible that occurred that's been confirmed on the grounds where in 2010 a young woman of 16 named Chloe was assaulted and murdered, and her body was left there at the park by a guy who was then charged with those things and began serving a 55-year sentence. So I don't know, at least that guy's behind bars. The person was caught. But it does then give this place a whole other sense of eeriness, right? A life was lost there in a terrible way. So just when I'm thinking about strange places like that feeling of canopsia that we, or maybe not really a feeling, but a word to describe a thing, this place has a lot of those different feelings. It's a real mixed bag of them.